My husband, he did open the wall. He opened it up right where we thought it was, and we were horrified. What we found was the burlap sack, but so much more, and so much dust and dirt comes out. It was like a poof. We didn't have masks on or anything.
Right.
And there was not a baby in that burlap sack. No baby. No baby. There was something in there though. And it was a chicken carcass. It was wrapped up and shoved down into a wall in this burlap sack.
Hey, I'm Julian Morgans, and you're listening to What It Was Like, the show that asks people who have lived through big, dramatic events what it was like. Hey friends, welcome back. I'm going to keep this one short. Maybe this will be my shortest introduction yet, because I think with this story, the less you know going in, the better. But having said that, I'm going to give you the basics, just so the cold open that you just heard, that thing at the start makes sense, and just so you're sufficiently curious to keep going. So this story all starts when a family moves into a house in rural Pennsylvania, in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. And during renovations, they uncover something about their house which totally upends their lives. But ultimately, it reveals a fascinating piece of American history, and one that I knew almost nothing about before going into this conversation. To share the story with me is the woman who bought the house. Her name's Kaya Betsius. So let's just do it. We'll just get into it. So here's Kaya, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. Hey Kaya, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great.
That's good. I'm doing well as well. So, right. I'm glad we got through that. Where does this story take place? Can you tell me about the area you live in?
Okay, so this story takes place in Pennsylvania, in the United States, in a rural county that's, it's called Schuylkill County. It's right where our location is right on a county line by Berks County, which becomes geographically important later on. So we're in the countryside, but I'm in a town. And at this time, it was 2010. My husband and I, we were looking for a larger home to move into. We had a growing family. So we had 2 children already, and we had found a spot, not in a town where we were from, but close by, close enough that it wouldn't be too far from our family. And it was originally built as what we call here a duplex or a double, which would be 2 homes that share one center wall. So the people who we bought the house from had taken the time to make this 2-house setup one house, which gave us lots of bedrooms for kids and 2 bathrooms, which I believe is what was going to keep my marriage strong. And because we had a dedicated boys' room bathroom and a girls' room bathroom.
Yeah.
Right?
I get it.
So we buy this house, and the reason why we want this house is because it doesn't really, it's in perfect condition, and it doesn't need to be fixed up. We didn't want to do a lot of home improvements. We didn't have a large budget. This house was by far in the best condition for all the ones that we had looked at the time.
Okay. Does it have like a old, in any way, spooky vibe? I mean, what's like the vibe of the house?
I didn't think it was spooky, but I will tell you, some of the kids, like my daughter, she didn't like the house. She didn't get to see it until after we had bought it. She had stayed at a friend's house during that time. So unfortunately, we didn't wait a long time. We made an offer on it almost right away, and it was new on the market. It hadn't sat on the market long at all. And we weren't homeowners before. This would be our first house we've ever purchased. And we closed on it in October of 2010.
Okay,
And
congratulations. Must have been an exciting time.
yeah, so we're ready to go. We move into a house. I become pregnant with our son, Barrett, and give birth the following June. We haven't even had the house a year yet. We haven't done many home improvements, but we fixed up the nursery for the new baby. We didn't do, we just put carpet in, repainted it, and put sticker decals on the wall. This is a low budget nursery. And we repainted one of the bathrooms, basically. And so the house has little or no insulation when we buy it. We know this is the case, and we do plan on putting insulation in. So on the summer of 2012, I finally sent my husband up in the attic, check out what the insulation situation is, because it has some old insulation up there. This type of house was constructed in the 1920s, approximately. It has something called balloon constructioning, which is basically where the framing goes from like the whole, floor to ceiling. There's no partition. It's just a basic like opening. And sometimes it can go to like 2 floors. They don't make them like this anymore because they're a fire hazard. This is called balloon construction, and it becomes important. So we send him up there, and he comes down and he says that he can see some things are shoved down in the wall. And he comes back, like kind of like with some old bottles. And I thought, oh, these are amazing. Like, I want to keep them. They were really interesting. So I asked him, can you find anything else? Can you get anything else? He goes back up, and he's got our other son, Joshua, with him, and he digs down in the wall, and he shows me some other things that he had found that were just above those old bottles. I think he just didn't really want to tell me. They were pornographic magazines from like 1980. And we were giggling because our oldest son had taken off with one of the pieces of, and just like, I'll take care of this, and we'd run him down and say, no, we'll put this over here on top of this where you can't see it. It was like some,
a lot of bush.
It was a lot of 80s bush. It was funny. But there was more.
How old was your son at the time?
He was about 7.
Okay.
He's about 7 years
not quite
old.
old enough for it to be okay. It's a bit young.
But he remembers this day. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We are blissfully unaware. Mm-hmm. So I get to the point where there's still something down in the wall. This is a tight area. My husband's kind of a bigger gentleman, and he couldn't reach what it was. So I'm interested, and I ask him like what he's seeing, like what he's describing. He's looking for something to use as a grabber, and he sees right on top where we had a Swiffer like taken apart, and we're just using like the aluminum end to like reach down. It's pretty far. We got a flashlight, and it's hard to see. And there was like an onion that was completely desiccated. It was perfect in shape, and then it just poof. Whenever we touched it, it just disintegrated, and it's very dusty and dirty. Yeah. And it seems to be a burlap sack. So I thought horribly. Initially, I thought that it was possibly a baby in the wall.
Why? Why was that your first thought?
My first thought was that because in this town that we lived in, we were aware that like some babies had been found in a different house on a street, a few streets down underneath some steps. And, I just think 100 years ago when the house was built, it was a different time. And I just couldn't think of like what else it would be in what you would wrap in a burlap sack and put down in the wall. Like, to me, it was so obvious. And I was just like, horrified, basically.
I love the way that you're like horrified, but you're finding it simultaneously obvious. You're like, oh, this is definitely a dead baby. Like,
This is, I
horrible,
know, like, I'm
but definitely
so
a
like,
dead baby.
I am certain at this point.
You've definitely seen some horror movies in your life.
I have, I have. Yeah. Okay, so I look at my husband, and my husband looks at me, and he already knows what I'm going to say, because the wall that it's down in is in the nursery, where the room that we had just fixed up. That's where the wall was. That's where we were digging at. And so I just said to him, oh, I can't believe I did this. But I told him to open up the wall, like right there. I don't know. I was like so certain this. I don't know why I did it, but this is what we did. This was a mistake.
Oh God.
This was a mess. My husband, he did open the wall. He opened it up right where we thought it was, and we were horrified. What we found was the burlap sack, but so much more. So first things first, we take the thing that we go after, the top thing. It's a hole in the wall. It's just like a hole. You can't see, and so much dust and dirt comes out. It was like a poof. We didn't have masks on or anything.
Right.
It was like a lot of dust. And I just remember it hanging through the air, because by this time it's like afternoon and the sun is shining through it. And there was not a baby in that burlap sack. No baby. No baby. There was something in there though. So we open it up, because it's not just like wrapped up. It's like stitched in this sack. And it was a chicken carcass. It was a chicken carcass. It was wrapped up and shoved down into a wall in this burlap sack. And the chicken's about the same size as a baby. I just want to say, like,
yeah, big chicken. Like,
so, but weird. This was really weird. Your mind goes like to the why immediately. Like, why is this? What the heck? But like, it wasn't just that. You could hear all of these, like the tinkling of like glass and things like shifting down the wall from when we moved the stuff. So right away after we open this thing up, we start looking for what's underneath it, and what's underneath it. And what we find is like a complete eclectic arrangement of things like you would never think. So we didn't think to inventory things at first, but I did take pictures, and I'm glad I did, because there's no way that I would be able to remember. So stuffed from the floor to the ceiling in this balloon construction, 1920s construction, just the exterior wall. We're just talking the exterior wall where these end caps had been popped off, seemingly, in our attic. And so in between, the beams, we clean out like one, right? And then we go to the next, and there's more. And at this point, I'm calling my sister.
wait, before we go to your sister, like, what else do you find? What other stuff was in this wall cavity?
We find about 20 wrapped up chickens, and we find all different other kind of animal skulls, feet, all of the chickens were roosters. We can tell they were roosters because they all had their spikes,
Like talons.
yeah, they're right, exactly. So all male chickens, and then there was carnival glass, there was metal objects, but like there was which I didn't really notice like any significance, but there were all these different items that were like tied like with knots around them, like tied with like string around them or cloth and like very random things. Some stuff I don't know what the heck it was. Um, so I call so I mean I'm putting this stuff out. I'm taking pictures. It's like on my carpet. It's in my baby's nursery.
Were you, can I ask, were you excited? Were you like, this is fun? What a weird
Oh my
discovery?
gosh. So after the initial relief that it wasn't a human, like human remains left in my house, after that was some sort of like grotesque fascination. And I do believe that at some pictures you can see me smiling because one thing that we pulled out of the wall, which was amazing, was like a 12-inch cast iron skillet. And it's like, how did they even get it in there? It was hard to get it out. So an eclectic array of what I think is just complete and total junk. And like, so as we are starting to grasp like the sheer magnitude of this damage, it's not fun anymore. Like we quickly realize that this is like some horrific like discovery basically because immediately I start saying that we're going to have to gut because what I didn't mention is that around our windows, since it was old, we had replacement windows. These were initially weighted windows that the weights were left like in the frame of the window, and there was moisture leaking around these windows. Since it's an old house, we don't have central air. We had like a window unit air conditioner, and they get moist, and it was dripping a little bit in that area, but we had moisture all around those windows, and there was mold where the moisture had gotten in.
Yeah.
Because if you can imagine, you've got like everything that mold needs to survive. It has like moisture plus like a food source. But we actually did end up moving from that nursery room on into the next room over then. Because it's like, okay, so if it's in this room, what's to say it's not in the next room? Because we could clearly see up in the attic those end caps had been popped off all along the entire exterior wall of only one side of this duplex house. On the other side, end caps were on, no problem, looked normal. So half of the house. Mm-hmm.
So as a new homeowner, that must have been kind of depressing, right?
Oh my
At
gosh.
that point, you were like, oh God, what
In
have we
tears. So my husband was amazing, and he redid the whole nursery because we didn't know where it would be and where it wouldn't be. So we gutted the nursery. We had to put all, new book drywall up, but we insulated it with like real insulation.
bought? Yeah.
But
and you
like
got
we had
all of the junk and the bodies out of the walls.
Mm-hmm, we did, and then we moved over to the guest room, but when we did the whole entire nursery, it wasn't every wall. It was only the exterior walls. There was a few odd things that were found randomly in the interior walls, but nothing that was like a dead animal. It would be like a metal object type of thing. But so really this was like just our exterior wall on one side of our house basically, and
Okay.
we were looking at it spanning like the whole length of the side of the house. Yes.
And
True.
what was your theory at this point? Without
so
giving
glad
away the
you
ending.
asked.
But like, what were you like? Oh my God, there was a serial killer who used to live in this house, or because that's where I would have.
Yeah. Really? That's weird. So I just, first of all, when we bought the house, we knew that it had gone through many owners. It had been a rental for many years. So it's like the first thing I thought, Julianne, was like some renter hated their landlord and decided they were going to screw them big time by making this house unlivable. Right? That's what I thought. And I was mad. I was
Yeah. Yeah.
confused and angry.
I can imagine. Was there any way that you would could you do any sort of research on who owned the house? Like did you go into like investigation mode and you're like, right, who's done this to my house?
Immediately to the courthouse looking up
Yeah,
names.
that's right.
We kind of knew where to look, though, because some of those chickens that were wrapped underneath the burlap sacky ones were newspapers. So we had dates.
Oh.
So like the oldest one was from 1930.
Ooh.
And I believe that the newest newspaper that had a date was like 1946. So we actually had kind of an idea of like what time frame we were looking at for this. You know, I mean, this is so much worse than just the porno mags were on top.
Wow, that is such an interesting time capsule from the distant past as well, like 1930s and 40s. You know, that was a million years ago. And you've got this little snapshot of what was going on in someone's life, but you've got no sense of who they are. Like the mystery is delicious. I love that.
I was angry. I was so angry. Yes.
I love that. You were angry. I don't own the house.
Yeah, right. This was very angry. This is difficult to deal with on a number of levels. Opening up from the inside was a bad idea. We didn't have the proper PPE on. We didn't have gloves on at first. We didn't have masks on at first. So ended up, just my husband and I, just from being in that, just from breathing it in, ended up getting pretty sick. We got fevers, acutely sick. Like we inhaled something and it made us sick basically for like, I think it was like 3 or 4 days. I remember the fever though, that like no Tylenol or no fever reducer was helping me at that time. I knew I was like, I knew I had made a mistake at that point.
Whoa.
And my husband was too.
Like some freaky rooster flu from the 40s.
Yeah, it is. You know, they've got some really nasty bacteria in their guts.
Yeah.
And it was like basically mummified in the areas that hadn't gotten any moisture, you know, and so then just aerosolized when we opened the walls from the inside. You know, we didn't know it then, but we had made a really big mistake by doing that.
Yeah. That's this is your kid's nursery as well. You know, that's not what you.
Yeah,
not
anymore.
Not what a mom needs.
Yeah, we had to move him into our bedroom while it was under construction. I mean, it was just, and you know, on a side note, prior to that, our kid who had been sleeping in there had ear infections all the time and upper respiratory infections. And I was certain that because of this old window unit, I mean, it wasn't like that, but it was, you know, it vibrates. It's kind of got moisture. It's jiggling mold and feeding mold that's coming into the room that I can't even see. And I'm putting him, and boy, he had a lot of upper respiratory infections and ear infections and I just knew after we found it that it wasn't going to be a problem anymore because we were moving him out of the room because it wasn't going to be in it. And it did, it cleared up. It really did. But, you know, you just never know. Like we just thought our kid just had ear problem, like just bad genetics or something type of thing. Making him sick, you know, putting him to sleep in his room, you know?
Yeah. Little did you know it was this kind of like ancient chicken burial site.
Yeah. The other kids were safe on the other side of the house, and the other affected bedroom was a guest room, so it was just our one son, Barrett, who was being affected by it acutely at that point. Yeah.
Hey, it's time for a quick ad break here, but please don't go anywhere. Stick around because we'll be right back.
Listen up! You can get the new iPhone 16e with Apple Intelligence for just $49.99 when you switch to Boost Mobile. We pulled so many all-nighters to give you this deal, and hey, stop messing with the mic!
I'm just helping us catch people's attention. This is a great deal!
Exactly, so it doesn't need all that.
Fine.
Get the new iPhone 16e available at Apple Store locations and the Apple Store online.
Visit your nearest Boost Mobile store for full offer details. Apple Intelligence requires iOS 18.1 or later. Restrictions apply.
Consider this your sign to skip the what's for dinner debate tonight. Outback Steakhouse has a 3-course meal starting at just $14.99. Start with soup or salad, then take your pick of down-under entrees, like our juicy towering burger or flame-grilled shrimp. And for dessert, New York-style cheesecake, plus $8 cocktails all day, every day. 3 courses, starting at $14.99. Tell the group chat you'll see them at Outback. Price and participation may vary.
Hi, I'm Casey, host of the Case File podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about Boost Mobile, offering reliable nationwide coverage backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Love your service or get your money back, no questions asked. With Boost Mobile, you get nationwide coverage and fast network speeds at a fraction of the price. Why pay more for the same great service? Unlimited plans start at just $25 a month, and you won't be sacrificing coverage to save. So why wait? Start saving with Boost today. The Boost mobile network, together with their roaming partners, covers 99% of the US population. 5G speeds not available in all areas. Visit your nearest Boost Mobile store or find us online at boostmobile.com. Money back guarantee. Try Boost Mobile risk-free for 30 days. If you don't like us, you get your money back. Requires port-in and autopay. Customers who cancel within 30 days of activation will have Boost service fees refunded. Activation fees, if applicable, and phone payments will not be refunded.
Hey folks, it's Mark Marin from WTF. Today I want to talk to you about Boost Mobile, offering reliable nationwide coverage backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Love your service or get your money back, no questions asked. Boost Mobile offers the coverage, network speed, and service you're used to, but at more affordable prices. Why pay more if you don't have to? You can get an unlimited plan for $25 a month that will never increase in price, ever. No price hikes, no multi-line requirements, no stress. Visit your nearest Boost Mobile store or find them online at boostmobile.com. After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 per month as long as they remain active on the Boost Unlimited plan.
Okay, so you cleaned up his room. You know, I'm guessing you replaced all the walls in this
We
room.
did.
Yeah.
Everyone. Yeah, we stripped down all 4 walls to figure out what was going on. Assess the situation. My husband had it all back up again. Within like a week or 2, he was so fast. He was just like, I'm going to fix this baby. Okay, so well, the nursery's fixed up and we're working on the guest room. And I think it's like a week or 2 later because we work full time. We're doing this in our free time and we don't know what we're doing at this point. We've not consulted anybody professionally. We just want to clean this stuff out. And I give my sister a call. Now, I was already crying to her on day 1 about this because we were close, right? But, you know, I was going to definitely need help to fix it. And, you know, just tearful, just anguished whys all over the place, right? But don't worry. She's got an answer.
Why does she have an answer?
You know, she's like, her profession happened to be that she is an archaeologist. So she's just like looking at this from a completely different angle, from a different state of fascination. I had loaded everything that we were finding in, I remember exactly. It had not even been 1 week because the garbage hadn't come yet. It was days before the garbage was supposed to come, like maybe 3 days when we get to really talking about this. By this time, we've realized that we need to wear PPE, we need to wear gloves, that it's really nasty, it's going to make us sick because we had already been going through it. I remember when my husband redid the nursery, he had a raging fever, and it was his birthday.
Oh, yuck.
Um, but my sister's she gets on the phone. She's an archaeologist. She's got archaeologist friends that know stuff. Telling you, she comes back to me. She's like, "Don't throw that stuff away." And it was like, "Oh, why?" Like, and she said, "Honestly, I have, like I know of someone who studies like wall caches, like wall dumping, like when people put like shoes in their walls to for whatever reason, good luck, ward off bad luck, superstitious reasons." And I'm saying, "No, this is garbage. This is garbage. This is someone trying to sabotage me." They didn't know it was going to be me, but it was going to be whoever bought this house someday.
Yeah.
And she says, I think it's an archaeological find. I think that it is something that you don't know about, Kaya. And I want to get you in touch with the right people. But you got to save this stuff. You've got to document what you're finding, where you're finding it in the walls, while it's fresh in your mind before you forget, because there's just so much overwhelming thing, like just happening like one after another, basically, as we're making these discoveries. I mean, let me tell you, there's like women's pantyhose. There's like things that look like maybe from like a sewing kit. There's like needles that have like wood, like bent wood that's like wrapped in circles with like thread tied around it. And just there was like an aluminum curtain rod that was definitely like from like the 40s. It was like pink. It was like a cheap, in my mind, when I saw it, I thought somebody was trying to dig down in there and lost their diggy stick, just like we had our Swiffer down in there. I was like, see, they were trying to push it down in or something, and they lost their picky diggy stick thing.
Yeah.
And she does. My sister does. She finds someone who studies the Pennsylvania Dutch practices, which is right smack dab where we are living. And I'm not from the area, and my husband's not from the area, so we're not really familiar with these practices. Like, she's talking about something called powwowing, and where I grew up, powwowing would be like literally something that people do for like American Indian, like to pay tribute to, or to keep the traditions alive. They would do like what's called a powwow, and it's a gathering. This is not what she was talking about. And there really wasn't anything on Google at that time in 2012 about it. You couldn't find anything really online about it. So you just couldn't look that up. And it seemed like as I'm asking around, like my work friends who are from the area, like, what do you guys think? Do you think that it's a powwow, like a powwowing thing? Is it they're calling it Dutch magic or white magic, and it was done for healing purposes, and it was not spoken about, or it was not it wasn't considered necessarily quite Christian. So the tradition kind of fizzled out because there weren't written recordings of these types of things. It was like
Okay, and what's the Dutch part of that in Pennsylvania? Why Dutch magic?
Okay, so in Pennsylvania, this is kind of a weird thing to know about Pennsylvania, but we have the Pennsylvania Dutch, and that's because when they settled in the area, there's a spraken de Deutsch, and so people who were already living in Pennsylvania said, "Oh, they're Dutch," but they were German. They were not. Yeah, they spraken de Deutsch. Do you speak German?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so these were German migrants who first moved to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, they did, and they brought their customs with them. And, some of them had to do with I don't want to say spells, or just like sayings that you would do, or things that you would say. It's like almost like as a healing spell. It's not really as a healing ritual, I think, is more what you would call it. The people who ran the historical society in our town kind of wanted to know more about it and started to scratch a little deeper and started to come back to me with information about the people who were in the house around the time that those newspapers were dated.
Okay. And what did you learn?
We learned that there was a powwower that lived in our house. He was a renter,
Okay.
not a homeowner.
You were
And-
right.
I was right. A homeowner would never do this to their own home. Only a renter would do this. I was 100% sure on that.
Yeah.
And this is like over weeks now. By this point, I'm starting to learn a little bit about this archaeological stuff, but I've only gone through 2 of the bedrooms, basically. And my husband's swearing up and down that they are gone. So we got 2 bedrooms.
Okay,
Cleaning
so you
them
cleared out 2 bedrooms worth of powwowing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And lo and behold, I get a hold of someone through Facebook, which my sister helps me. And his name is Patrick Donmoyer. And he was working at the Historical Society in Kutztown because they do a lot of this documentation. He was working at a museum there, and he was really interested in the contents. Okay, and at this point, I mean, before he's come, I'm wanting to throw it away. I'm told don't throw it away. So I have my poor husband, drag it down to the garage so the garbage guys don't come and get it till he can come. And he does. And he comes down and he takes a look at what I'm talking about in the house. He goes around and he looks all over the house, and he seems to concur that this does seem to, because of the way that things have knots around them, it almost looks like ritualistic. He knows a lot more about these things than my sister, so he, was explaining it to us in a way that made sense after so much did not make sense. Like, so many questions, but finally this explanation does seem to go because of the way that everything was. Like, for instance, the chickens weren't like just wrapped up, like balled up and like shoved down in there. They were like whip stitched together, like stitched inside of the pillowcase or the sack, whatever it was. So the ones on top were like more meticulously, more ceremoniously like done. The ones on the bottom were like the newspaper ones. They weren't like sealed up inside of another item. They were like kind of just like wrapped in newspaper. It seemed like it was morphing. It seemed like whoever was doing this over years and years and years, just building up layers. And then he was sharpening his technique and, whatever it is. And because there's definitely a gradient change that seems to be more sophisticated as time goes on. And it was kind of cool. You could date it with the newspapers.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so just so I've got this right in my head, this is like a medieval, probably like pagan Central European tradition that's arrived in America from these migrants, like I guess in the 1800s, 1700s.
I don't think you're ever supposed to put this stuff in your walls like he was doing, but I feel like he was under the pretense of like anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Because eventually, talking to people who were from the Berks County area, they were like, yeah, I had one nurse tell me that she did find chicken feet, rooster feet tied together same way in her kitchen walls, but it was like only like a half a dozen, and it was just the chicken legs. And honestly, she said she wasn't even worried about it because she said her barn was haunted from a guy that hung himself when his son died in the Civil War. So I was like, sorry to hear about your barn.
The chicken feet.
Like, my house is fine. Sorry, didn't mean to complain.
Wow.
Right. So I don't think it was ever supposed to be like this, but this guy took it to the extreme. Yeah.
Okay, and it was supposed to bring good luck, or like what was the point?
For healing purposes. And as this individual who worked for the Historical Society in our town started interviewing these townspeople, it turns out that this individual, he has relatives that still live in the town. And there are others even still who remember specifically being treated by this powwower. So the one story that was brought up to me in specifics, the gentleman was in his 90s, and he spoke directly to the interviewer, his name was Todd, and he worked for he worked for the Historical Society, and he interviewed this person, and he said, "What do you remember about being treated by this individual, this powwower?" And he said that he had pertussis, which is whooping cough. So you cough and cough and cough when you have this until you basically, run out of breath. And so he wasn't getting better over the course of whatever treatment he was getting from his regular doctor. So his mother was worried and called upon this person to do one of his powwow rituals over him. And he said he was 9 years old. The man came down, he blew smoke over him, blew the smoke in his face, said a couple prayers from a book that doesn't ring any bells for me. It was like the 7th book of Moses or something like that. And he said he coughed like crazy. He said it didn't make his pertussis any better. But, eventually he did get better from, the sickness. But this was his experience. And the only reason I won't say his name, the person who lived in the house who did this, is only because he still has relatives that live in the town. And people got a little weird when this happened because they weren't really sure what we were going to say because it's such a weird story. And we're not really from the town,
Okay,
So.
yeah, right. So you guys, you sort of come in as just Johnny come latelys, and they're like, "Don't you criticize our local black magic man? Like, he solved a lot of problems for us."
Yeah. Just like, I don't know. People had so many questions. They didn't think that maybe that this was a credible, story. But it was. We actually called the insurance adjuster because we made an insurance claim because what happened about a year later, my husband has promised all of these chickens they're gone and there's no more chickens in the wall. I'm traumatized, but I believe him. We decide to have our last kid. I get pregnant. We still have moisture problems around some of these windows, and I start to be able to smell them because I had really great sense of smell when I was pregnant, still do. But
yeah, it's like estrogen powered turbo smell.
Right, and it was making me crazy. I mean, it was driving me, and and I was saying to my husband that you didn't get them all. You need to check the bathroom wall, which is an extension of that exterior wall. So it was like 2 bedrooms and then this bathroom wall. But the house pitch comes down to such an angle that my large husband could not get in to like shine a flashlight. And he was like telling me, "Don't worry, like nobody could fit in there." But I'm like, I can smell it. I know it is.
What did it smell like?
It just smelled like death. Like if you ever have a mouse die in your wall and then like your house kind of stinks for a month until it dries out. That's what it smelled like. It was not a good smell. It was not a good, and it wouldn't go away. Yeah. My husband could not smell it. The kids could not smell. I think maybe my daughter Sarah could smell it, but I was taking a lot of heat for this because we just gutted the 2 rooms. We didn't want to gut the bathroom either, right? But this is where we are. So I was extreme, Julian. I told my husband one day, I said to him that if he didn't find them, because I could smell them, that I would take a hammer and I would put a hole through every wall until I did find them because I could smell them. And it was just a matter of time. He came home from work that day and he found them. And they were in the exterior wall there in the boys' bathroom.
Hey, this bit of music means it's time for an ad break, but please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Popsicles, sprinklers, a cool breeze. Talk about refreshing. You know what else is refreshing this summer? A brand new phone with Verizon. Yep, get a new phone on any plan with Select Phone Trade-in and My Plan. And lock down a low price for 3 years on any plan with My Plan. This is a deal for everyone, whether you're a new or existing customer. Swing by Verizon today for our best phone deals. 3-year price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate only. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
So how did this affect you financially?
So it did affect us financially too, because with the mold problem, and we had some really great advice. Through everything at the end of there, we had a friend say to us, "Why don't you start a GoFundMe?" And we made a little GoFundMe, and the GoFundMe raised. I was so proud of it. It raised like about $3,400. But that was really great because that helped us put stuff together. So I documented like every single receipt, because this ends up changing the whole way that Brian and I see the world then, because we were so unbelievably touched. Not just people that gave money, but people who gave us really sound advice that we needed, that we couldn't afford to pay for, right? And they said, I remember like some of the best advice we got was like, look, like mold needs food and water. And if you take away those things, you don't have problems. So if you seal up your windows and your roof so that you're not having water leaking, even if there are chickens that you don't know are there, that will make you sick as long as you're mitigating the moisture problem. So that really helped me sleep at night, because like this was a 5,000 square foot house. And that's a lot of walls. And I didn't know, like, I just wanted to I wanted to gut the whole house while we were living in it and working 2 full-time jobs. Like, it was just not realistic or doable ever. So, it was like, people just were so unbelievably kind. We did have some critics. Most of the time, if we could answer people's questions, they calmed down. I think a lot of people just thought we were making it up. It's like, you can't make this shit up. And so like after we get those donations, Brian and I end up becoming the kind of people who always donate anytime anyone asks, because
Oh, that's nice.
it was so touching. It was a game changer for us though. Before that, we had a growing family and we didn't have a lot of extra money. We didn't donate a lot.
Yeah. And I understand this story. I mean, I found you via a local news piece, and this story got out. And how was that? What was that ride like?
That was horrible, because I didn't mind it so much, although it was a little bit embarrassing. But like my poor kids got bullied at school because we were still living in the house. And for some reason, kids, they would be like, kind of like, ew, you had chickens in your walls. I remember my kids being like, but it's not our fault.
Seriously. Kids are so ridiculous. I'd be like, wow, you've got black magic in your walls. I'm impressed. Let's hang out.
But I'm so glad you called it that, because it's not black magic. It's what they call white magic. And here was the kicker for me. Once I understood, it took me a little while, that these were things that were said or spells that were done to heal people. I'm a nurse, so I'm like, okay, I get healing people. I even get being so scared, that your kid's sick and that you will try whatever, even if it's a non-traditional type of medicine, like you would try something that's just maybe not proven, or just, I get that. So then finally, that was my come to Jesus moment, basically, was just realizing that it wasn't black magic. Although some people did get online and tell us that we needed to put them back in the walls. And I was just like, it's never going to happen. It's like,
yeah, put it all back and have a seance.
They're like, you've disturbed these things and you're like, this horribleness is going to continue to befall you. And it's like, I'm sorry, but I had not put that stuff back in there. It is, first of all, we donated all of it to that museum. Now, the last I heard, it's not like out on display because it's biohazardous. Like the guy that we donated to has it in a storage unit because like it's hard to get friends that like will agree to help inventory the stuff and get the stuff like out of these bags. It's like basically you could get really sick because what's in a chicken's gut, like are bacteria like Campylobacter that can really make you sick, give you high fevers and make you vomit and give you diarrhea and so forth, like GI bug. So yeah, it just sits in a storage bin somewhere. But maybe someday it'll be an exhibit. We donated it. That guy wanted it.
Sure. Good luck to him.
Good luck to him. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How long did it take you to clean out all of your house and just get your life back?
If we would have found it all at the same time, it wouldn't have taken so long. It took a while to, like we removed all the biohazardous stuff right away, but then to like make it look pretty again, like your room look nice again, we didn't get all that done like right away. So it was years.
Yeah.
But we now know not to open those things up from the inside. So if we were to find more, we would go and open up the wall from the outside so that all that, nasty particulate desiccated mummified matter doesn't release inside the house. That was like one of the biggest mistakes I think that we made.
Yeah. Okay.
It was traumatic. And my husband too, like even at his work, I remember like his friends like his coworkers would be like, you're bullshitting us. Like you're shitting me. And he didn't like it. It was not good attention. And then like anybody that we would ever tell the story to, they would be so unbelievably horrified. And then it's like kind of hard to get out of that funk. It's just kind of like, it's like it's scary. It's scary with people. We should have probably bought new construction. I'll probably, if I ever buy another house, it'll be new construction. I'm traumatized.
Oh no. I think, but this is just such a singular experience as well. Like this just never happens. I've never heard of this happening to anyone. So it's not like you're the member of some subculture. You're kind of like you and your husband are just out there on the fringes with this experience that no one has heard of before.
When we were able to locate who the person was, we were able to kind of reach out to this gentleman's children who were still alive. They weren't in the town, but we found, I think, a daughter, I believe, and she was in Arizona, and she had no idea what I was talking about. She doesn't remember her dad doing anything like that, and she would have been around like age like 8, 9, 10 type of age. So I mean. Yes, it is. It's unique, all right. Although we've continued to get information about like the town kind of and like the powwow like has a history. And there was another powwower that lived across the street who was a female, and that house is still across our street. And I always look at that house like, and that house is a rental. Like, has anybody looked in the walls? Maybe you shouldn't, but I'm just saying,
up that can of worms.
Open it from the outside, not from the inside. Oh my God. Yeah.
Do you feel like it's now comfortably behind you far enough that you can smile about it and not get mad?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you better believe anytime we do any kind of construction and we're opening up an area that we've never looked in, I am like jumping over that person to look down because I'm like, you never know. Our house is like an archaeological dig and you never know what you're going to find. And I found like just all kinds of just interesting stuff that they stuffed down. And like, I'm still glad it wasn't a baby in the wall.
Yeah, that's right. Silver lining. At least it
Silver
wasn't
lining.
a baby.
We found no babies the entire time.
This is freaky house, but it's baby free.
Baby, yes, exactly. It could have been worse. Yeah, very good point.
Yeah. So what? Let's just finish with something broad. You know, when you look back, it feels like you've moved on with your life. What did you learn from this experience?
Well, I definitely learned that there are different and exciting ways to practice medicine that I did not know about. I think that's interesting. And I learned a lot about moisture and mold mitigation. And I'm not even trying to be sarcastic, But if you do have a house that's 100 years older, you're going to need to know that anyway. And it's just an amazing story, and I get a lot of questions about it. So it's fun at parties. You get a lot of people, crowded around. But not my kids and not my husband. They leave. They want to hear it.
Thanks so much for talking about it one last time.
Yeah, no problem.
It's fascinating. And you like the way it starts so small, you're just like, oh, we opened a wall and then this happened and then this happened. And then it turned out to be this fascinating piece of obscure history that relates to the sort of like founding of modern America. Like, bizarre.
It was like going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Except this is like a wall cavity, a hole in the wall. Yeah. Well, Kaya, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for joining me today. If you really enjoyed this, if you were like, wow, that's interesting, but geez, I'd love to know more about this Dutch magic thing, powwowing, as Kaya kept calling it, you should subscribe and you should listen to this week's bonus episode, because I'm talking to an expert on German migration to America and how they brought their superstitious beliefs with them. You might remember that actually the Grimm's fairy tales, like Hansel and Gretel and, all those ones, they're all like folk tales that originated in Germany. So this belief system was all about potions and castles and witches and damsels, and it's actually a world that I think feels very familiar to us in a lot of ways. So how did it survive in frontier America into the 1930s and 40s? Well, subscribe and tune into this week's bonus episode to find out.
Popsicles, sprinklers, a cool breeze. Talk about refreshing. You know what else is refreshing this summer? A brand new phone with Verizon. Yep, get a new phone on any plan with Select Phone Trade-in and My Plan. And lock down a low price for 3 years on any plan with My Plan. This is a deal for everyone, whether you're a new or existing customer. Swing by Verizon today for our best phone deals. 3-year price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate only. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.